our first conversation, we are so excited to welcome someone back to the Nasdaq stage. Alfred Johnson is going to frame what this unique moment means for us, for innovators, for the markets, why we're here to build in 2025. So Alfred Johnson is the co-founder and CEO of Crux, the sustainable finance company changing the way clean energy and manufacturing projects are financed in the US. He was previously an exited founder and held senior roles at BlackRock, the US Treasury, and the White House. Alfred, take it away.
Can you all hear me? Great. So I am the parent of 3 little boys, which, as Shamik in the back can attest if he gets off his cell phone, are mostly feral, but we like them a lot. Our youngest, AJ, was born over the summer. He has the same name that I do, Alfred. We're named after my grandfather, who was born on the prairie of western Minnesota in 1898. He was born in a town called Benson at the end of what was then the Great Northern Railroad. And the thing that was significant about that is the railroad transformed that part of the country. They were only there because the railroad had brought them there. And that all feels really quaint right now. But at the time, it must have felt really futuristic and exciting. His family had been born on this town in the middle of nowhere in Norway. A generation later, he was born at the end of a railroad connected to the Minneapolis grain exchange, where the wheat that the family produced was sold on to the rest of the world. In those days, change was measured in generations. My son was born into an era where change is measured in months. Feels like everything's changing all at once. Politics, climate, technology, trade, markets. And at the middle of all of it is a commodity that we don't talk about enough and too many people discount: energy. Energy demand is rising for the first time in 2 decades. It is driven by electrification, manufacturing, and of course, AI. Data centers are becoming information factories that consume electricity at all times of the day and night. In a lot of areas, those data centers are putting strain on the grid that the grid has never seen before. It is a moment when we need a historic amount of investment in infrastructure. The problem is it's too hard. It's too hard to build those kinds of facilities. It's too hard to raise the capital that people need to in order to transform the economy. This isn't the first time that I have seen ambition outpace the systems that are meant to deliver it. Started my career at the US Treasury Department working on the financial crisis response. When the markets froze, it wasn't because capital wasn't available. It was because the systems that were meant to deliver it broke under the strain. A decade later, I went back to the Treasury working on the COVID response. And in that period, I saw the systems that were meant to deliver the aid itself often impeded the delivery of that aid. That brought me to a pretty simple view, which is that ambition is almost never the problem, the systems are. And so we are in a moment where we need to reformulate the systems that define our energy system. And what we need is developers to build, investors to invest, technology to enable, and the government to set the table in a productive and effective way. When I left the Treasury Department in the summer of 2022, we went out west with my family. It was one of those really smoky summers. The skies were orange most of the time. The kids were indoors too much. And we started working on the idea that would become Crux. I was with Ian Samuels from New System Ventures and my second-time co-founder, Alan Kramer. We started to look at the just fundamental inadequacy of capital markets for clean energy project finance. And around that same time, Congress passed a new law, the Inflation Reduction Act, which made it possible to transact on tax credits for the first time. That sounds small and esoteric, but it changed the way that clean energy project finance happened. And the tax credits were extended to many different kinds of technologies than had had them before. Battery storage, nuclear, clean fuels, all got tax credits that hadn't had them before. And for us, what we saw there was an opportunity to reformulate financial and capital markets around these transactions. In a little bit more than 2 years, we've built a platform that works with about 1,000 developers, manufacturers, and investors to raise all different kinds of capital. Transferable tax credits, debt, tax equity. We've now done more than 100 deals totaling billions of dollars. This same AI that is driving energy demand higher also makes it easier to be able to originate project finance. We are finding that we can deliver real efficiency into these otherwise very inefficient transactions. And what that looks like is we use LLMs to better predict pricing, to organize documents in a data room, to extract information from documents to make the diligence a little bit less painful. And that's all really exciting innovation. But policy, of course, continues to change. Everybody in this room was here and looked closely at the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, which obviously made huge changes to the tax credits for wind and solar. The new administration has added even more roadblocks since then. The fortunate thing is that the market continues to signal the need for more manufacturing and development. Trillions in real assets need trillions of dollars of investment. We just need to build a better bridge, which is what brings us to today. We're standing here at Nasdaq. It is the site of the world's first electronic stock exchange, the Minneapolis grain exchange that took my grandfather's wheat and brought it to the rest of the world. It still exists and it runs on Nasdaq's systems. What Nasdaq proves is that it's possible to invest in the technology of markets and financial infrastructure and unlock trillions of dollars. We need to do the same today for clean energy project finance. Just like the railroads and commodity markets changed the world for my grandfather's generation, the investments we make today will change the way that our generation is able to live and to thrive. So let's get to it. Thank you.